going to call this meeting back to order, so if everyone would please just take their seats.
How appropriate, LPP plan.
Thank you. So are we rolling?
We're rolling, yep.
Okay. So I have a motion here, moved by Charlene Jackson, seconded by Darrell McLaughlin. Be it resolved that the Protective Services Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region receives and files the OPP 2014-2016 Strategic Plan. I'm sure everyone's had a chance to look it over. Does anyone have any comments or concerns? No? Then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And that's it for me, I hope. Okay. You're up.
Your turn.
I need a suitcase.
Okay, we'll call this Environmental Services Committee meeting to order, and I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Clerk Hope.
So, as per my report, I met with Donald Deere before the holidays in regards to looking for funding opportunities for the $93,000 to do the study on Muskrat Lake. And after speaking with him, he's very adamant and passionate about wanting to fix the lake. So we came up with two suggestions, and my suggestion to council was that we become a part of this drainage investment group. It is an annual membership of $1,500, but they apply for all sorts of funding opportunities throughout that year to secure funding, and the initial reason for it is for that $93,000 to do the study on Muskrat Lake. At the very least, Mr. Deere has also offered his services to apply for the grant, as I did explain to him that staff doesn't have the capacity or the knowledge to be spending a lot of their time applying for grants such as this. So that was my recommendation, to become a part of DIG, and I will entertain any questions if there are.
Charlene.
Is this similar to what the Muskrat Lake Council is also applying for? They're applying for grants to help the farmers for drainage as well, my understanding?
They are applying, I believe it's for tile drains
Yeah.
along the Muskrat Lake. I believe this is a study that encompasses more of the other problems that the lake is experiencing, not just specifically the tile drains.
Okay.
Yes.
My concern is we have so many groups actively involved here now. We have the Muskrat Watershed Council, the Lake Council, Mr. Deere, Don Broom. So are any of these, anybody working together, or is everybody working separately? Because I don't think there's going to be a lot achieved if everybody doesn't come together. And as a council, I'm just not sure where we put our, there's just so many.
Yeah, I think they all do work separately. I know Mr. Deere does go to the Muskrat Watershed Council meetings, and I know he's very persistent with his comments and concerns at those meetings also. So,
Mayor Johnson.
I don't believe that he's a member, though.
no.
I don't believe he's supporting them. My concern is the very same as Councillor Reggier's concern, and that is until we get a direct focus with everybody, that if we start applying for grants, we're going to get little grants to do little things, and I don't think that's going to be that productive. I think we need to encourage more of a focus with the groups and go after some real precise grants and some precise action. when I listened to the presentation, it kept coming to me as though for a fee we can tell you what's wrong. We already know what's wrong. And for another fee we can apply for your grants. And we can bring in experts for another fee. And all along it was more than anything to me, it was a sales pitch. And I'm not sure it was the correct sale pitch for us. So I don't think we should venture into this real quick. But we should do something, but I think we got to focus more.
Charlene?
And I guess the other question I have is, in his recommendation, he's asking for us to put the cost of the study as an item in the 2016 Whitewater Region budget. So is the cost of the study $93,000?
Yes.
So he's asking us to do that. And applying for the grant, is it looking at 100% funding of that study?
It depends on what's out there. Right now, I think there's Trillium grant, which could possibly be 100% of the funding, but I mean, you don't know if you're going to get it or not.
This is a study that we've already studied, or?
I believe it's a new study. I don't know the ins and outs of it, to be honest.
Christine?
Just from kind of recapping what's in your council package, it was my understanding that with Mr. Mikulski, who is a limnologist, meaning a freshwater lake expert, and the panel of people that Mr. Mikulski suggested be part of this study, that this $93,000 study by scientific experts would come up with a plan for remediation. I would suspect, I know nothing about this, but I would think that plan would be in the millions of dollars for corrective action. So, but this is just to identify. We know what the problem is, but it would be their suggestions for solutions, and then that launches off into a whole other world about how that could possibly come to reality.
Is there any other comments? Charlene?
I guess to be a member of this group, they would, so right now we're just looking at $1,500. We're not looking at adding $93,000 to the budget. We're just looking at adding $1,500 to join this group. And they will apply for the grant and not Mr. Deere, or?
If we become a member of this group, that's what they do. They apply for any kind of funding that's out there for these types of projects, for these types of studies.
And where's this group located?
I believe they're in Ajax or Mississauga.
So are they going to worry about us, is my concern.
I believe Donald Deere is a very close contact with them. That's how we got to know them.
Mr. Mikulski is a principal in this group. That was my understanding.
He owns the company.
Okay.
Councillor Olmsted?
As each week goes by, this thing gets more and more confusing all the time. And there's so many moving parts to this. I think we've had about 4 different delegations, or maybe more than that, in front of us, all vying for our attention. And I'm not prepared to move forward on anything until I kind of clearly understand who the different parties are and what they're after. And I don't know if Mr. Deere supports Muskrat Watershed or they support him. There's way too many confusing parts going on right now. So I'd like to understand it better before moving forward.
Okay, I'll go to Marcia.
I'd just like council to be aware that Mr. Deere did call me, and he would like me to make sure that I bring his $93,593 to council in the form of a grant on the budget. So I'll bring that at that time to use to decide.
So to put it on as an expense, and then put it on as if we were going to get a grant, and then we're not budgeting any municipal tax dollars towards it at this time?
I did not go through that with him at that point. I just said that, yes, I do have the cost breakdown. He asked me to bring it forward, and then I said I would do that. So I will definitely, he was out of town when he called me, so I said when he does get back, I will sit down with him and see what the plan is.
I think this was presented at the December 2nd.
It was,
Yeah, and unfortunately I was away at the time, so.
Mayor Johnson.
I believe the intent of that statement was that we put it on our budget as a grant, not as you have mentioned, it was just as a grant.
So an expense and the grant is the revenue instead of tax dollars.
Yeah, we give them the grant, and then if they're successful, they will apply for funding, and
That we give them the grant.
that's the request. Is that not the request? That's why we're all hesitant here.
Oh, I thought he was gonna apply for a grant and that wouldn't proceed unless we got a grant. No, he wants the $93,000 too, so it would have to be raised from taxation. That will be discussed at budget, I guess, but
Councillor Regier.
Final note, I agree with Councillor Olmsted. I think until we get these 4 groups together, get this wheel turning with every cog turning the same way, other than that, I think we're just beating ourselves to death. I'm not prepared to put money out at this point in time until we, as Councillor Olmsted suggested, that we have a full understanding of each one of these different groups.
Councillor Jackson.
I think it's important that, and maybe we need to get them all in one room and have an, whether it be a formal meeting or an informal meeting, that we discuss it all with all 4 groups, because moving forward, we have to have one group representing us, either that or the council represent us and ourselves and apply for these grants, because you can't have all these people applying for different grants and nobody seems to know which direction we're trying to drive the ship here. So I don't know if they're willing to come and be heard by council, or if we can talk to them all to see if they're willing to work together to come to a decision on who wants to apply for what or which direction they're each individually going to go. But it would be nice if they all work together with one direction in mind and getting the Muskrat Lake fixed.
Christine.
Just based on that, Councillor, what would you think about us issuing an invitation to the different groups, perhaps to have a special meeting, to come together and discuss this? Because there's also the potential that if more than one group apply to the same funder for funding, A cancels out B, and we've lost credibility with major funders, and you don't usually get a second chance if you do that. So I think maybe Hope and I could work on that, and we could get a meeting set. And I know passions run very high about this topic, so I think a special meeting rather than wedging it into another committee would probably be the way to go.
Mayor Johnson.
I would still be in favor of continuing the amount of money that we were talking about in the budget for the Watershed Council to continue with that project they have for the drainage. I think that is part of the cure, and they have something on the go, but the rest, as discussed.
That was already approved, was it not?
I believe at committee it was, yeah.
Okay, we do have a motion here. I don't know whether we want to even read it, or do we? Maybe what we'll do is read the motion and see if we can table it then. Would that be an appropriate move? Okay, I'll have Hope read the motion.
So moved by Charlene Jackson, seconded by David Mackay. Be it resolved that the Environmental Services Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends that Council become a member of the Partnership Investment Program through the Drainage Investment Group with an annual membership cost of $1,500, which will enable DIG to write grant applications to possibly secure funding for an intensive study on Muskrat Lake, as recommended by Michael Mikulski and Donald Deere during their presentation on December 2nd, 2015.
Okay, before I call for a vote, I'm going to ask the mover and the seconder if it would be appropriate that we table that until that special meeting is has been we've had that meeting, and then at that time maybe we could deal with it. And I think that's approval. So if all of council is willing, then we'll just table that motion until such time. And that ends the Environmental Services Committee meeting. If everyone was as quick, we still could be out of here by 8 o'clock.
I tried, Councillor.
You ruined everything.
You're next.
I want to open the portion of the meeting for Recreation and Culture Committee. One item on the agenda, it is to draft the bylaw for the Cobden District Recreation Association. Does everybody have a chance to read that bylaw? Any questions about the bylaw? I'm sure if you've read it, there'll be a couple. Christine?
I just wanted to make a comment that the last bylaw was dated 1986 for the village of Cobden, so a long time ago, and it was about 22 pages. So I modeled this one on the medical center, just short and sweet, terms of reference, members of the committee, etc. And then, as I note in the report, once you're satisfied with the bylaw and it's passed, the next steps are for me to work with our lawyer, pardon me, to draft a new lease agreement, which we're functioning right now without a lease agreement with Cobden Rec for the Cobden Arena. And then also for me working with the lawyer to prepare a report for you about the possibility, advantages and disadvantages of incorporating Cobden Rec, which would then mirror what we have, the associations in Westmeath and Beachburg, who are independently incorporated, as opposed to being on the township's books.
One thing, it may be in it, but I didn't actually notice. Was there an end date, or is it open-ended? This agreement. Councillor Jackson?
It seems that consisting of at least 6 members, one of whom will be elected annually by the voting members to be chairperson. It doesn't say that it would change at any point in time. So to me, it would stay until reappointed.
So it's changed. Okay.
So you're on there forever? No.
And we could clarify that wording if you like, that it could be for the term of council, or you could have a look at this annually.
Okay.
Probably seeing that it has to be a council member. If Chris didn't run or wasn't successful running next time, or if Natalie weren't working at the township, then those two would have to change. But yeah, you could clarify it by term.
Should we put wording in there to that effect, that for the term of current council, or not that we want to change it every 4 years? I think the last one ran for 12 or 15 years, if I'm not mistaken. Councillor McLaughlin?
I'm just wondering, I think it's a good idea maybe to put in the term of council, so at least it'll be brought up at then the next former council will bring it up and revisit it at least. I'm not saying changing it, but...
Councillor Mackay?
Yeah, there's no council member on the Westmeath or Beachburg rink. I mean, once you get that set up, you don't have to be there forever, do you?
No, but different circumstances where both of those associations, Beachburg and Westmeath, are corporations.
I know, but once you get it incorporated and you do the first term, you won't have to...
So you're saying if Cobden becomes incorporated?
Yeah.
Yeah, then things will change.
Yeah, I understand why you're there now,
Yep.
but once it's there, then you won't have to do that. I mean...
hopefully.
Yeah.
Christine?
So if you have a look, please, at Schedule A, in the middle, membership of committee and term of office. So the way I had defined it, and again, this is just a draft, can easily be changed, managed by consisting of at least 6 members, one of whom will be elected annually by the voting members to be a chairperson, 1 secretary, and 1 treasurer. Council member will be appointed annually by the council. 1 Whitewater staff member will be appointed annually by the council, and at least 4 members at large shall be appointed by council each year, the names supplied to the township by Cobden Rec. So those are the terms of reference that I had laid out, but if you would prefer all of that to go per term of council, I can adjust that.
Personally, I'd rather change year to year, but I'd be okay with it being term of council.
It might be a really good idea to have some stability at the beginning while it's kind of a new venture, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there's been a council representative on this committee, even though it is a committee of council for many years.
Actually, I think there was.
Well,
I can't remember who it was.
I think it was Art Cobb at one point, but it's been quite a while since he was on council. So shall I leave it as it is, or?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have that same copy. Can I see your copy?
Or I could just adjust all this for the term of current council.
Sorry, I think the best decision probably leave it as it is. If council's okay with that, then we don't have a motion, correct?
No, I just wanted to get the draft before you for discussion, and then it can come back at the next committee meeting. Oh no, actually I had written it, I'm sorry. Too many bylaws on the go. Past this 20th day of January, so if you're good with it, it could be added into the list to be passed tonight at the council meeting that we're having next.
Would it be a good idea for that to be presented to the Rec Association to see if they have any concerns? I mean, it's an agreement that's been, 15 years in the making, so it may not be a bad idea to run this version by them to see if they have any concerns before we may have to bring it back to council after the fact.
That would probably be a polite notion. So we could just leave it as is. You could take it to the next meeting.
Yeah.
And then come back. Although, until this is passed, you haven't been appointed to that committee. It's a bit of a chicken and egg.
I'm okay with that. I'd like to present it to the association first. Just, they haven't seen one for 15 years, so I think it'd be the right thing to do to present it to them. Councillor McLaughlin?
I kind of have to agree with Councillor Olmsted. We haven't had a council rep appointed to that board for so long, so a few more months, weeks, or whatever it takes. But I think it would be a good idea, and I agree with you. Take it and present it to them at the next meeting and see if they have any concerns, and then bring it back and we deal with it at that time. I don't think there's any hurry for this.
So I'll take the draft, present it to the Rec Association, and we'll table the motion until such time that I'm able to present it to them. Okay? Thank you. That ends, that ends the Recreation Culture Committee.
I think you beat my meeting.
meeting of the Public Works, and Hope's gonna read the motion, sorry.
So moved by Darryl McLaughlin, seconded by Kathy Regier. Be it resolved that the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends to council that the Public Works Manager be directed to do winter maintenance, plowing, salt and sand on Low Court as requested by John Barakin.
Go ahead, Bill.
So this is a request that came in a while back, and sorry, we're just getting to it now, but Low Court has been brought up to an A gravel standard, but it's not to the point yet where we can assume the road. But Mr. Barakin has requested that Public Works go ahead and start winter maintenance on the road. We have done this in other subdivisions of the township, just so you have some background on it. So I just wanted council to say yes or no.
How long is that road, Bill?
Oh, it's not very long.
Yeah, it's just a couple houses on it.
Yeah.
Councillor McLaughlin.
I think as Bill says, and I remember, I think Jameson Crescent, we did the same thing with, if I'm not mistaken, and,
Up over the hill, yes.
Yeah.
And also part of Cardell Street.
so it's not a new precedent that we're setting. We've done this before,
Yes.
so, I have no problems as long as as Bill has no problems with starting the maintenance on it. I think it's appropriate because we're not changing any of our past practices.
No, and eventually the road will be ours.
Okay. Councillor Jackson.
Are they eventually going to be paving that road
Yes.
this summer?
I don't know if it'll be this summer. I think they want to get most of their housing construction done before they pave it. So it could be a couple years yet, but I don't believe the timeline, it's like 2020 possibly, Doug, before they have to pave. So in the subdivision agreement, it's 2020 before the street has to be paved.
Okay, and you don't have any concerns about anything sticking out of the ground or anything like that?
No, I've checked the road out. We can do winter maintenance quite easily on it.
Perfect.
Anybody else? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried. Or this stick for you. That's it? So far.
Secondly, moved by Darryl McLaughlin, seconded by Charlene Jackson, be it resolved that the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends to council that the intersection of Gore Line, La Passe Road, Harry Gervais Street, and La Croix Bay Road have 2 more stop signs installed to make this a 4-way intersection.
Councillor McLaughlin.
I'm gonna turn this over to Bill. I'm gonna ask him what his thoughts are.
Well, it certainly is a dangerous intersection. If the county would go along with it, then we'll erect our portion of the signs to go along with it as well.
Mayor Johnson.
I can speak to this because I was the one that made the request. It's actually the responsibility of the county to install all of the signs, or additional signs, I believe, and they have, I think, requested, excuse me, that we ask, which will make a recommendation, which then they'll take to county. I believe it's on the 5th. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not sure of the date of the meeting, but in the report that Public Works has generated for you, Steve Boland was contacted by Sandra Moss, and he believes this area warrants traffic control. Therefore, he is doing up a report for County Council for February. I'm not sure of the date, and for a bylaw to be passed, and then any signage to be erected will be completed by the county. But according to my conversation with Sandra, Steve Boland at the county agreed.
And just one more comment that it has to do with the house on Gore Line. And when you're coming out in 2 parts of the intersection, you have to be out in the intersection to be past the house.
That's weird.
To be able to see, and not everybody follows the speed limit. That's not to say that it's the issue, but the issue is solved if they have to stop and restart. Then everybody gets a chance at safety. That's why it's been agreed to, I believe.
Okay. So all in favor?
I think we just changed the wording right there, just to show
Okay.
county council instead of us.
Yeah, so I changed it to be it resolved that the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends to County Council that the intersection of Gore Line, La Poste Road, Heritage River Street, and La Croix Bay Road have 2 more stop signs installed to make this a 4-way intersection.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Is that it? You're mumbling.
Moved by Darrell McLaughlin, seconded by Kathy Rigger. Be it resolved that the council and committee of the Township of Whitewater Region went into closed session under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act at 7:34 p.m. for the following purposes: personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board.